inroads with the private sector. First, and very delightfully, happy to report so many architects and urban planners who have been providing us with their expertise free of charge. Second, banks who have pledged 2% of their profits annually, Federation of Banks, that's money to intervene in particular low-income informal settlements. Third, a lot of private sector companies that don't just want to give out food and stuff, but they want to work hand in hand with us to work on a neighborhood and do something right. So they provide access to expertise, their time, information, and a little money as well. Goes a long way. Then we come to the vocational training bit. We've been approached by many companies with job opportunities. But there is an issue here. Young people for the past 20 years maybe have come to a point where they don't like the discipline of punching in and punching out. The 8 to 5 thing is not very appealing to them. So you find most young people wanting a job that keeps them free to work at their whim, so that's why you have the tuk-tuks spending a little bit of time and they make good money. But so they're not career oriented, they are make a little money oriented. That's an issue because the jobs are there and so many private companies come forward and give us all the information about the job profile. And then we go out into the neighborhoods and work with NGOs to seek out young people. We have to do a lot of work to orient them to importance of career orientation. So that's one area we're working on. We're going to be starting in 4 neighborhoods a facade painting project in 4 neighborhoods in Cairo and Giza, where we're using that as an orientation towards linking them up to the construction sector. Now we have a lot of private companies also who are offering to take these kids over after they've done this stint and to gradually ease them into and accompany them along the journey of a formal sector job. That's a huge challenge.
And by the way, this is going to benefit those corporations. I mean, when they write this annual sustainability report, they are going to move forward and to think about themselves that they are doing something positive and concrete on the ground. I mean, this is mutual benefit.
Absolutely, right, of course.
Right. The problem of informal settlements is not associated only with Egypt, but we have other countries that when we take a look over the world, we have India, we have Latin America, and we have most of the developing countries, they have that particular kind of problem. So with different. But like you said, there are areas that are prone to disasters. So if you believe as a minister of the borrowing experiences, successful experiences maybe from those countries, governments that have achieved or taken a leap and that type of achieving successes and how to be able to fight the problems like that disaster areas and be able to achieve success on the ground concerning those settlements and reformation on that field. If you have any ideas.
Yes, indeed. Globally, there's a network called Slum Dwellers International, SDI. It began in Mumbai, India, and now has branches in over 14 countries. It's a global network of people who work on issues of informal settlements. And we learn a lot from them. We are part of the network. We attend meetings, we get publications, we circulate knowledge, and it's in many cases about national policies for housing, for land titling, for giving the poor the rights to the city. There is a global dialogue, and we learn from it about who has the right to the city. Is it just the rich? That's one question. How are resources divvied out among the population of one country? Do you give it all to people who live in compounds? Do you put all your resources into putting infrastructure to people who live in rich neighborhoods? Or do you prioritize services in slums and informal settlements? It's an issue of national goals and national strategies on all fronts. How do you decide your mortgage finance laws? Are they to serve the people who can pay big down payments and keep paying up monthly installments, or do you design, like we just did, something that's more user-friendly? How do you allocate land? Do you want your poor to live outside of the city and commute, and do you let them find their own ways to commute in, or do you design transport systems that are user-friendly for the poor who need to come into the city and work? Because cities will break down and will stop. They will come to a standstill if you don't have these people to work in them. They're the ones who make the city move, you know? Or others like, do you want walled cities? Are we isolating ourselves now, or are we one inclusive city? So do we have compounds and the heart of downtown that's only for the business district, and then keep the slum people out because they're criminals anyway? This whole notion and philosophy of who owns the city, that's a global dialogue, and it engages us and them, and we will learn a lot from it. And tonight we have a leading international figure at our ministry, Dr. Hernando de Soto. We're organizing a seminar for practitioners. So he has another view. It's not about justice so much as the right to land titling and ownership of your building. In the West, he claims, his theory goes like this, that if you are able to prove ownership of your home, your apartment, your dwelling, then you can transfer that to a representation that allows you to seek and access credit. So you can go to the bank and get money, you can say to the state, I'm here, and so on. So there's a lot of, and you can use that to acquire capital to dynamize your economy. It's not just about homes, it's also about businesses. You need, therefore, to facilitate the registration of your property or your business. And he was here many years ago in Egypt and conducted research on how long it takes to register a business, and it, of course, turned out to be way too long. So one new thing we're doing in our ministry is this. We're going to seek to give people in informal settlements who have been in the city for 50 years, title, the right to property ownership. It's going to be complicated. First, you have to have cadastral records. You have to know what building exists where. We don't have records of that in informal settlements. We have a record of it for the formal part of our country. There's been a massive survey of all of that, and 5,000 kilometers have been documented, but formal buildings. So first you register them, then you find out who owns what. And ownership here is very dubious, because most of the concept of ownership in informal settlements is by squatting, squatters' rights. So you have to go back to the history of the building. Who first built it? Is he still there? Does he still rent out to others? So what's the relationship? Then you give him the opportunity to register it. You have to come to the point where he has to own it, because
To legalize,
exactly. Once you do that, he has to participate in the upgrading, participate financially of the neighborhood, and they all want that. We've just been talking to hundreds of them, because we adopt a participatory approach to our urban development policies. That's new in our ministry. And they've all been saying, we have money, we built these homes. So when we went back and documented how much money was spent in just buildings and construction in these neighborhoods, it's like 10 times the value of real estate in the former part of Egypt. 10 times as much. So the Egyptian poor, entre parenthèses, have spent 10 times as much as the government has in housing. So they're saying here.
But this over how many years?
Sure, incremental, and that's a very important.
Much accumulated.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's incremental, and that's one of the key key strategies that we need to adopt to allow people to build incrementally, not one whole building. But that's another issue. However, but they have money and they're willing to pay and invest in the upgrading of their neighborhoods.
But not to be relocated.
No. They've been there for 40 years. They work.
And this is another problem, I think.
Yes. No eviction or relocation, except if they're living on hazardous land where they're going to die. You know?
Ma'am, when we were talking about this position and how much it's a tough responsibility, you've kindly said before going to air that you've been working into this field for decades, I may say. May I ask you a question which is a little bit far from the formal position?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Are you familiar with this movie, Hina Masara?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'd like to ask about how the Egyptian drama and how our role as media would reflect this. And when you have seen this movie for the very first time, have you recalled the scenes or the people you have been watching for years, or there were some exaggerations, or there are facts which were not introduced that well?
Well, drama is what it is. It's drama. So, and every artist chooses to zoom in on a particular aspect of the drama he's portraying. But yes, you're right that much of the time we form our perceptions of people and things around what we view or what we read even sometimes. So, but that's normal. There are other movies that have been made about people who live in difficult circumstances, Banat al-Masna and so on.
Muhammad Khan?
Yeah, they live in difficult situations, but they make it somehow. Very moving films about the joy and the trial of being poor in Egypt. So you can. We as viewers need to be more mature and understand that what you watch is not always the absolute reality of the situation. It's a zoom in on one aspect. But you're right, we need as a population to change our perception about slum dwellers. There are
And this is going to be tackled via media and drama, so it's our role?
Absolutely, your role. So we're hoping you will allocate enough airtime to correct the view that all informal settlement people are criminals or drug dealers. Certainly, when you live in urban areas where it's densely populated and tight and access is not so easy, there's no police presence, there's no open spaces, there's no normalcy to life, of course, it will attract all sorts of illegal activities. Not that they don't exist in the formal area, but the denseness and the lack of urban order and
I guarantee that I can go to Azbet Kharalla, for instance, and make a report there.
Sure, get your proper documents and do it.
Okay, I will. This is a promise.
Sure.
Right. Among the challenges that you also meet is the rapid increase of population. Your extensive efforts to try to sort out problems everywhere in the densely populated, like you earlier just mentioned, areas in Cairo. Whatever plans do you have, or whatever smart ideas do you implement, then you get stuck with the rapid increase in population? How do you face that challenge? And you might have it in your agenda also.
Yeah, it's very interesting, the debate on population growth in Egypt.
It doesn't go relative with your efforts.
Look at all of the literature on population growth and countries that have managed to address it, and it's never been by spreading birth control messages or public awareness media blitzes on stop having kids. That's important. It has to happen. But countries' history has shown that when